They're two happy women bringing you inspiring stories, politics, pop culture, and lifestyle hacks, all with an eye to making our communities and our country a better place to live. It's the Happy Women Podcast with your hosts, Jen Horn and Katie Gorka.
Welcome to another episode of the Happy Women Podcast. I'm Jennifer Horn.
I'm Katie Gorka.
And we have an incredible episode planned for you today. I have not met our next guest officially, but Katie, I know you are friends, and I know we both respect the work that Moms for Liberty is doing, what they are doing for the entire country. Gosh, ground zero has become our school boards and our kids' classrooms, and it is time for everybody, all hands on deck, to fight back and to make sure that parents still have choices and control in their kids' classrooms. So even though most kids are going out on summer vacation, moms are still on duty, and it is so nice to welcome into the Happy Women Tina Descovich. She's a co-founder of Moms for Liberty. And Tina, we are so happy to have you here. Thanks so much for joining us.
Oh, I'm excited to be here with both of you today.
So take us through your story and how your journey started, because one of the things we love to highlight is that, believe it or not, many of us did not pop out of the womb and say we're ready to become activists. There was always that moment, right? That magic catalyst, that moment that makes us spring into action. What was that for you?
Oh, I think it's a series of moments. You know, my co-founder and I, Tiffany Justice, and I are both former school board members. And so we both had separate moments where we decided to get involved to run for school board in our different counties. But then there's the moment to start Moms for Liberty. That's a whole nother moment. And so I would say it's definitely evolved over time. I was heavily involved with my children when they were in elementary school, PTO president, volunteering on every committee I can. And then as I started spending more time in the classroom, seeing the concerns with curriculum, seeing the concerns with legislation from the state that was impacting teachers and classrooms, and started poking around at the school district and meeting with my legislators and really having an impact, which was shocking to me. So one of the first things I approached my local state legislator about, and this was many, many years ago, was a new testing bill that was passed at the state level. And I was just a mom. I made the appointment. I went down there. He told me I could have 15 minutes because he didn't want to talk about education. Ended up spending over an hour and a half in his office. And within 30 days, the direction given from the legislature to the Department of Education in Florida changed. And it really impacted what was happening statewide. And that was my moment of a mom can make a difference. A single mom that's concerned about an issue can make a difference. And so that was the first moment. And then, of course, there's Moms for Liberty moments, which are, a whole nother beast.
So I got to know you back in the very beginning. And now I'm trying to remember, I was trying to look back through old calendars to figure out when it was, and I couldn't find it. Was it January of 2021? Is that when you guys got started, or was it 2020?
2021. So Tiffany and I both finished our terms in November of 2020. And I've gone back and looked at our meeting minutes. I kept minutes from our very first meeting, which was in the end of November. It literally had like 2 line items on the agenda. And we just were discussing, what do we want to do? What do we want to create? How do we want to help people? Then we met several times in December, really forming Moms for Liberty. And we legally launched the organization January 1st, 2021.
And what did you take? You mentioned that you were on the school board, because right now a part of what Moms for Liberty has to do is train moms, train parents to get involved and to get on the process. Because if you aren't, you're really not in the game, obviously. So what did you bring from your time serving on the school board that you are now bringing to Moms for Liberty as it gets bigger across the country?
That's a great question. Everything. I feel Tiffany and I have these conversations all the time. We feel like all of our experiences throughout life, being a mother, serving on school board, have led to us being able to lead this organization. And it's quite remarkable when you look back. But those 4 years of serving on school board, we like to say we saw behind the education curtain. We saw how public education works, the good, the bad, the ugly. we really were introduced to teachers' unions and the control and stronghold they have on public education. Even here in Florida, where it's a right to work state, they are not nearly as powerful as they are in places like Chicago and Los Angeles. But they have control and power over everything that goes on in schools and classrooms, contracts when you open, when you close, if you have an early release day, start times, end times. All of that is in these contracts. It impacts families, it impacts children. And, there's nobody at the table. Well, before Moms for Liberty, there was no one at the table in these discussions representing children and families. It was the union who got teachers elected to the school board, and then they would negotiate with each other on all of these issues, and there would be no voice for children or families.
So from my perspective from the outside, Moms for Liberty has been just enormously successful. So if I'm not mistaken, I think you've grown at the rate of about 100 chapters a year? Does that sound about right? What are you at now?
Yeah, we're well over 300 chapters. We're a little over 3 years old.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's Katie, you were around truly. I don't remember when you and I met, but it was early of 2020.
I think it was the event in Vero Beach. Do you remember that one?
No, and we met before that. We met in Orlando. I drove over to a dinner you were hosting.
Oh, yes. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
okay.
It was really early on.
Yeah.
But, we probably, had 30 chapters or something at that point. And so, we are in 48 states now, 130,000 active moms on the ground. We have won 380 school board seats. We counted, our last count was almost 50 bills signed into law over numerous states that our chapters have helped craft in some cases, but definitely helped carry through each houses of legislature in their states and get signed by governors. Many photos of our moms standing by governors as bills are getting signed because they've been championing them and fighting them. Bills that protect parental rights, protect children, improve education, transparency in the classroom, all types of things.
So when you first founded Moms for Liberty, take us through that moment and what you started the group out to do and where you are today, because as Katie pointed out, it has grown so quickly. Have the goals of the group changed, or are they still the same?
Our mission statement that we wrote in December of that year was to save America by unifying, educating, and empowering parents to defend their parental rights at all levels of government. That is still our mission statement. We are proud of it. We stick to it. We actually have a little graphic we share with all of our members in our chapters, and it says, does it have to do with parental rights or education? Well, you can fight for it. Does it not? You cannot fight for it. So we keep everybody laser focused, marching on towards the same mission. I will say what has changed is our first discussions were, how can we help moms in Florida? And I drafted our first 5-year plan, which we're only 3.5 years in. And the goal was to be in all 67 counties. So to have 67 chapters in 5 years in Florida. I was thinking small. God had a bigger plan, apparently. So, after we launched, 2 weeks later, a mom in Long Island reached out and wanted to start a chapter, and then one in Anne Arundel County, Maryland. And lo and behold, 300 chapters now, 48 states. So if you have any listeners in Vermont or Utah, we really want
get on it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I know you all have just had incredible success. You've been all over the news, which has been really, really exciting. But you've also paid a really heavy price. A lot of our listeners are people who themselves are activists in their communities. A lot of us have experienced firsthand the difficulties, the way you get attacked. I mean, you all have gotten, first of all, like some of the most hateful emails and texts and other forms of attack. Does it ever make you want to stop doing what you're doing? And what would you say has been sort of the hardest, kind of that you've had to endure out of all of that?
I think it's when people close to you don't understand the work that you're doing. The endless blind emails that come in that call you all kinds of vulgar language, the attacks on social media, the attacks that come through the mail, the letters from Satan, the spells that have been cast on me, all of that is nonsense. Like, I don't know these people. I don't really care what they think. They are so vulgar, I can't even comprehend what they're saying. So it's not resonating with me at all. But, from time to time, I get a really well-written personal letter from maybe a little old lady that I knew 20 years ago and went to church with, who says she's like deeply disappointed in some of the things that I'm fighting for. Usually, I will say, she's being misled and doesn't really understand what I'm fighting for when I get letters like that. It kind of repeats talking points I've seen in the media. But I will say those types of letters, like that feels like a gut punch, because I think, you know me, you served with me. We did this together. We did that together. You know my kids. And so those are always a little bit harder to let roll.
So let's jump into what you are fighting for, because I think it's really important. I live in California. Katie lives in Virginia. There are instances of overstep in every single state across our country, red state or blue state. But I can tell you here in California that there is a very concerted effort to remove the influence of parents out of the classroom. There is a huge move to make sure that teachers and counselors almost have more impact and power over kids and what they're thinking about when it comes to their sexuality or their gender. You've got all kinds of curriculum that is being forced down the throat of our students. If you were to tell us today the state of education, I know it's hard because it's broad and it's across the country, but what do you think parents need to be looking out for? What are some of the real issues that we should be on the lookout in our child's classroom?
Comprehensive sex ed. I think, number one, find out if your district, if that's their policy and what they're teaching. It sounds comprehensive. You think back to when you had sex ed. When I had sex ed, it was a film strip. Biology, it beeped, the teacher turned it, everybody was a little embarrassed, but it was mostly biology. Comprehensive sex ed isn't just a little bit more sex ed about biology. It is repulsive, and honestly, it doesn't even teach truth. It starts in pre-K. It teaches them they can be a boy or girl, neither or both. That just permeates throughout K-12. They add in all types of things like abortion, different sexual positions, pleasure-based sex in middle school, all age inappropriate. Most of it's completely inappropriate, regardless of age, for children of any age. And so comprehensive sex ed is abhorrent. I hope people are following the recent Biden administration Title IX rewrite at the Department of Education. So states like mine in Florida, where we have worked hard and along with our legislators and our governor to make sure laws are in place to protect parents and children and make sure parents have the fundamental right to direct the upbringing of their children, and that school districts and teachers have to respect that right, are pretty much being washed away with the Biden administration Title IX rewrite if schools are taking federal funds. And most schools take about 10 to 12 to 15% of federal funds, and that's just enough to hold their feet to the fire to have to comply with this rewrite. And this rewrite says that gender identity is a protected class. That means boys will be in girls' sports. That means boys will be in your bathrooms and in your locker rooms, young ladies. That means boys can identify as a girl and spend the night in overnight field trips with the girls' quarters. So these are things parents better wake up and be aware of all across the country. We have a lawsuit, one of the first 8 filed against the Biden administration for this. We have asked for an injunction. We hope to get that to stop this from going into effect on August 1st.
So one of my most moving experiences with Moms for Liberty was being at your annual conference. You've done 2 now, and you've got your 3rd one coming up this year, late August in Washington, D.C. But I was really touched at the last one in Philadelphia, where you had some good drama. But I was really moved by one particular lady that I sat next to from northwestern Pennsylvania, if I remember correctly. And she had to make and sell pies in order to make enough money to come down, I know, right, to the conference. And I just was so touched by that.
Wow.
But beyond that, I'd love to hear, what do you see as being the biggest challenge for your members? Like, you obviously have a very particular perspective because you're national leadership. So you're dealing with things at a really high level. You're dealing with the hate. You're dealing with the press. You're dealing with all that. But I'm just curious, because we have so many people who are out in the field trying to fix their communities, trying to fix their schools. What do you see as the biggest challenges that they're facing?
Katie, I did not know that story. Now I got to go find that mom. I know that story. And before I answer your question, our next national summit is in August in Washington, D.C., and we are trying to raise the funds for summit scholarships. And what those do is pay for the hotel room for those chapter chairs. They already have to pay their travel to get there. They have to pay a summit registration fee of $250. They're away from their families, all of the things. They have probably to pay for childcare at home so they can get there, all of the things. And so last year we were able to pay for their hotel rooms because of a generous donor. So we're trying to do that again this year. But on top of that, gosh, moms are baking pies, selling things. That is one of their challenges. They dip into their pockets a lot to run their chapters, to host meetings and make sure the meetings are nice and that people have refreshments. It's not free to put on educational events in your community. It's not free to put on town halls or candidate forums to teach people about your local school board candidates. And so we've started at the national organization, since we've started raising a little bit more money, we've started offering little scholarships to chapters that need funds to put some of these things on. But a lot of times they're digging into their own pockets. And that breaks our hearts because, like Tiffany likes to say, our moms are truly on the front line. And when we ask them to fund some of this too, it's literally like passing the donation plate down on the front lines of a battlefield. It's like, hey, you're giving your blood, sweat, and tears right now. You're being attacked. You're getting things thrown at you. You are getting doxxed and all of these things. Your family time is suffering. You're giving up your time, your talents, and your resources. And now we're going to go put a plate in front of you and say, hey, can you give us your money too? Like, what more could you people want from me? I would think that they'd say. So, they have so many challenges on the front line, but I think the haters are one of the biggest challenges. I haven't counted them, but there are so many organizations that have been launched and created in opposition to our organization. Like, what is that? Our organization is to protect parental rights. And now there's all these organizations in local communities and nationally that their sole mission is to stop the work that we're doing. And they make lists of our members and they harass them and they call their places of work and they carry on and they follow their kids around and they file bogus lawsuits against them that, they always end up being exonerated, but it's, they have to get an attorney and they have to show up at court. And so it's all to make them stop fighting. And so they have so many challenges, but they are brave. They are courageous. They are joyful warriors, and they will continue to fight.
What's your advice to them? Because I actually know several moms. And by the way, we're talking with Tina Descovich. She's a co-founder of Moms for Liberty. We were talking about digging in and the generosity, and that really matters. Momsforliberty.org is the website to get involved, to find out more, to help if you can, momsforliberty.org. But Tina, I have a lot of friends who are on the front lines when it comes to the school boards and when it comes to parents and really trying to fight the fight. And what they get a lot of, especially in California, where we are very blue and everybody is just not afraid to scream at you if you happen to be a conservative or if you just want to watch out for your kids. They get called hateful. You hate transgender kids. You hate, how can you be so hateful against young people who are just going through something in life? And so what's your best advice to those people? Because I think for a long time, the left has used those kinds of words, you're racist, you're sexist, to try to hold back conservatives and intimidate us from speaking out.
Part of me says ignore them, but I think it's also important that we set the record straight where we can. You have to speak truth and you have to speak it boldly. I think you have to correct the record every time you can. Sometimes it feels like you're wasting your breath to say, no, I am not. I love everyone. I am just concerned about my children and I want to make sure they're safe and protected. And so I think we have to just continue to say those statements in a pleasant way, in a caring way. You don't have to be angry. You don't have to scream it. You don't have to fight back. But I do think it's time for us to boldly state truth over and over again.
I agree.
Probably listen.
So I think one of the things that's been so exciting about the last 2 years is not just the incredible growth of Moms for Liberty, but really a whole parent movement. I mean, there are other organizations that are also doing a great job. So my understanding is you're partnering with a whole group of these organizations to have a March for Kids, first ever. I'm so excited. So tell us about the March for Kids.
Oh, I'm thrilled to talk about that. So I did a little research, and guess what? In the history of the United States, there has been a march for everything you can imagine. There's been a march for, for and against wars, for foreign countries, for endangered species, you name it, people have marched for it. They've never marched on our national mall for children or for kids. And so we are going to have the first ever March for Kids on the National Mall. And, over 100 organizations are coming together as coalition partners equally to put this on. And we are going to stand under one umbrella. The theme is a yellow umbrella. And we're going to stand for the future of this country and to say no more of this stuff for our children. We want a better education for our children in America. 2/3 of American fourth graders aren't reading on grade level. Lowest reading score since the 80s, lowest math scores in the history of the United States. No more. The indoctrination, the sexualization of children, no more. People of all faiths, all ethnicities, all cultures, going to come together, and we're going to march and meet on the steps of the Jefferson Memorial on August 31st, 2024, and say no more.
I love that. And people from all over can come to this march. Do you have a place where people can go? Is it at the website?
It's at marchforkids.com. It's independent. Okay. Moms for Liberty. It is truly a coalition of over 100 organizations. We have 30 officially signed on right now. We're hoping to get over 100 signed up. And yes, open to anyone that wants to come and stand with us. You can sign up right there on the website to stay up to date as we book speakers. We're going to be announcing a couple big speakers in the next week or two. A couple faces of the march. We've got a lot of people that are very interested in joining us that day and see the importance of this movement and it being represented by so many different diverse individuals. So, the parental rights movement, as you guys have said, and we've talked about, and Moms for Liberty itself has just, zoomed from 2020 and what's happened. But really, it's become a movement. There are hundreds of mom organizations, dad organizations, parent organizations that aren't Moms for Liberty that are doing very similar work around the country, but we're all moving in the same direction of saying enough. And so, we've commissioned a song to be written, and it's going to be sung from the steps. And it is beautiful to represent not us, not Moms for Liberty again, but to represent the movement of parents saying no more. And so it's going to be a really exciting, beautiful day. I hope both of you will be there with us on that day. Mark your calendars now. Wonderful.
I know you're going to get one of us because Katie's right there.
Sure.
She's ready to go. But I would love to be there, actually. It's a flight from LA, but I think it's so important. And I think it's important to also bring together everybody. As you mentioned, Moms for Liberty, I'm such a fan of the work that you do with your group, but it's so important because we can't just do it inside of our little box. We have to reach out. And just as an example, here in California, where, again, we see all kinds of craziness going on with our schools, we have an assemblyman who you may be aware of, Bill Asaley, who is absolutely fantastic. He represents the Inland Empire in the state assembly. And he kind of came up with this idea about parental notification that if your child is changing their name or changing their pronoun, or if your boy wants to play in girls' sports, or if your girl wants to go to the bathroom in the boys' room, that has to be you have to tell parents about that within 72 hours of it happening. Seems totally reasonable. Like, what alternate universe do we live in when that would not be okay? But of course, the state assembly in California strikes that down. So instead of giving up, and this is why I say it's so important that everybody work together and we form these coalitions, he started going to the mom groups, the parents groups all throughout California. He then went to school districts, school boards individually. And when the state legislature wouldn't do this, he started going to the school boards to pass this into law step by step. And I think now maybe 13, 14, 15 school boards have actually implemented these rules. And that's why it is so important to highlight the coalition, because we can make real change. Even if we get shut down at the top, we can always find a way. There's always another way to fight.
That's grassroots work is what that is.
That is
what Liberty is all about. And honestly, it's the only way we're going to get our country back, because everyone at the top, those in power right now, and honestly, many of those that will probably change to power, power just, it corrupts. And so the power should always be with the people and with the grassroots work. And I think that's what we're doing now, is we're returning America back to the grassroots work. And that is when it will be successful again.
So, yeah, I think also the whole idea that we are a self-governing republic, it's like we'd kind of forgotten that. And to be fair, our schools stopped teaching it. But I think we're learning it firsthand now, that our country doesn't work if we're not involved as citizens. But one of the other things that I just have to say that I love about what you're doing is, and I think the Democrats have recognized this for a long time, these positions like school board, which maybe 10 years ago none of us paid attention to, these are also critically important because they're a stepping stone for people. I'm really excited to see, 2 years from now, 5 years from now, what happens with some of these many parents, some of these many women who've been empowered, who've learned how to deal with school boards, might they continue to move up and become more engaged even in state and local politics? Because goodness knows we need them.
You don't have to wait 2 to 5 years. You can look around right now. It is happening and it is exciting. Amanda in Kenosha, Wisconsin, she's our vice chair. She decided to run for county supervisor because she saw that they oversaw a lot of the medical decisions and other decisions that were happening in the school district. They had authority in Wisconsin to do that. They don't in Florida, but in Wisconsin they do. They had gotten their candidates elected to the school board, 2 of those seats that year. So she went and ran for county supervisor and won. And within 6 months, she ran for the state house, the state legislature, and won. And she's been serving there now for 2 years. Yeah, and I can point to instances all over the country. Once they realized, just like that moment we started this whole conversation with, that moment where my state legislator listened to me, and then in 30 days, change happened in my state. Once you realize that you have the power to impact and make the change for better, it's almost like a bug. Like you get addicted to it. You want to continue to help, and then you want to teach others and inspire them to also step up. Because, like Katie just said, like our constitutional republic, the power lies with the people, and you being civically engaged, and our children knowing the civic process and how to be involved and how to be impactful. And so I think it's contagious when you really see how it's supposed to work and people can make a difference.
Tina, we are just about, we want to be respectful because we know you are on a tight time frame. You're a busy lady running all around. But before we let you go, I do want to ask you one more time, how should people get involved? What's your message to parents out there? What can they do to help push along the already incredible growth of Moms for Liberty?
Yeah, especially if you're in Utah or Vermont right now,
Yep.
Go to momsforliberty.org and click start a chapter. Honestly, if you're anywhere, you can go to momsforliberty.org. There's a big map. You click on your county to find your chapter, connect to them right there, support your chapter. And I don't mean just with money, but of course, the whole organization can use the funds, but send them a note. I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for putting your time into it. Show up at their chapter meetings, their monthly meetings. Show up at the school board meeting. Sign up for their newsletter. If you don't have a chapter in your county, when you click on that map, find 5 friends and start a chapter. We need to have a chapter in all 3,000 counties in the United States of America. So go to momsforliberty.org.
Love it. All right. We really loved having you here. Tina Descovich, thanks so much for sharing your time. Happy belated birthday. Or is it birthday tomorrow?
How do you know that?
Because we are everywhere, Tina. We're spying on you.
Yeah, it's tomorrow. And
it's tomorrow, right?
A big
Happy birthday.
It's a big one. But you know what? You don't look like that at all. You look nice and you look 20 years younger than that. And you know what? Every single day is a gift. Happy birthday to you. Thank you so much for being with us. Thanks for fighting for our kids and for our parents. Momsforliberty.org, momsforliberty.org. And you can always check out Tina online as well. Follow her on social media at Tina Descovich. And you're welcome back here anytime. Thanks so much, Tina, for what you do. And thank you all for joining us. What an incredible episode. And don't forget, you should be subscribing to this podcast if you haven't done it already. Share it with your friends. You can get all of the links, SalemPodcastNetwork.com. Click on Happy Women. Rate us if you can. We love a 5-star review. Really helps us get started, which we are well in gear and we're having a good time. You can also get Katie's book, Next Gen Marxism, available wherever you get your books, and check out her website, katiegorka.org. You can find me on social media, Jennifer Horn on Truth and on X, and Jennifer Horn Radio on Facebook and Instagram. And thank you all for joining us for another episode. We are the Happy Women.